Say he's running 12 pounds of air in the slips, and he makes his first hit. It hooks pretty decent, then gets out there and it starts to get squirrely. So he comes back and lets a little air out. Well, now it gets better out there, but down here it's terrible. It's wadding the tire up. You can't find that happy medium sometimes with your air pressure. But if you had a tube in that tire, you can run them at 10.5 pounds air pressure, still run out the back really good, but the tube carries the weight of the car and allows the sidewall to absorb the shock and accelerate the car without wadding up. Anybody else got any more questions before we start bringing cars up?
When you were talking earlier about burnouts and line lock, you don't use a line lock when you're going burnouts here, so how are you guys on the turbo car? What exactly, how are you running through the car to do your burnout, not using a line lock?
Just use the trans brake.
So you're using the trans brake.
Yeah, just use the trans brake. And then a lot of times the kids will drag the brake pedal a little bit to put a little pressure on the front. That's a good question. Listen guys, this is also important. I missed this. I'm glad you asked that. When you drag the brake, a lot of times if you're on a blacktop surface, a lot of times a blacktop surface will be extremely difficult to do a burnout on with the ballast that you run, but then you can't hook on it either. It's very tricky. So a lot of times what people will do is try and drag the brake pedal to hold the car back and get wheel speed to track the rubber out. It's very critical that when you do that, the guy holding the car knows what he's doing and he's on the right side, because if you drag the brake and the rear tires are trying to bite, it's going to try and walk sideways. And you better have your guy on the right side of the car, whichever side the car is going to go to. Now some cars got a little rear steer in them and they'll do something funny. You got to know your car, but you also got to realize the surface tip one way. It's 9 times out of 10 it's going to go the way the surface tip. Okay, that's a good question.
It usually don't take much to break the tires loose on like a rubber surface like
Right.
this. It don't take much, but on asphalt, like he was saying, like there's been times I'll be full throttle dragging the brake and it dead hooks in the burnout, and then it'll spin on the launch. It's really tricky.
If you guys have ever raced, anybody ever street raced up in Mansfield? The spot up in Mansfield. That road's a freak because it's blacktop, and when you pour puddle on it, remember I told you guys sometimes you'll pour puddle and it just dissipates right into the blacktop and it's gone? You're going to see that at tracks like Darlington. You're going to see it at Rockingham. You're going to see it anywhere that you guys made no prep race backwards on blacktop. You're going to see it. Okay? I'm not telling you what to buy. We're sponsored by Stripper Glitter, but I'm here to teach you guys, no matter whose product that we use. I'm telling you right now that the Rocket stuff is a little thicker, a little slimier, and it makes it easier to do a burnout on blacktop. Does it break the rubber down as good? I don't know that. We don't use it. But I can tell you that some of the stuff that's slimy, like this stuff right now, you walk out there, it's probably sticky as hell. See how it strings? Yeah. Some of this stuff doesn't set up very fast. Now that's some of the purple stuff that Stripper Glitter uses, and it's the slimier stuff, similar to Rocket Tractor. I don't know if they're going to continue to make this or not, because they're not happy with that. They're not really happy with that. They told me they don't like that, they don't want to use it. But I'm telling you right now, that's good stuff on blacktop. And I've told them that, whether I don't know if they're going to continue to make it or not.
So in a situation, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
In a situation like Rockingham or asphalt or anything to where you're running multiple people, you start to stack compounds on top of one another. Does it start to matter, or does it end up kind of being?
It doesn't really matter that much.
Okay.
What will matter, guys, pay attention to this. This is another good point. What will matter, compounds stacked on top of each other, not that big a deal. What will matter is in the heat of the day, when they're pouring puddles, everybody, it's like monkey see, monkey do. I've gone up here before with a jug in my hand, not poured a puddle, because there's already so much down, there's no reason to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what will matter is if you're in July, August, hotter than hell, track temperatures 120 degrees, 130 degrees, and they're pouring puddles, it'll get slimy. That will make a difference. That will make a difference. That's another thing. That's coming. Never, ever, 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 ever worse than this guy standing in my tracks. What makes me mad is pouring water in a prep bucket. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. It will turn that into a milky shit mess. It'll never, they have to burn it off. They got to use alcohol, burn it, and scrape it off and start over. You're going to hold up everything for about 30 minutes.
Damn. Okay.
And probably make everybody mad. You might get a couple teeth knocked out of your head depending on where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's bad. That's cardinal sin. Don't ever do that. No water. If you're going to do a water burnout, they have to be done way back there. And to be honest with you, you got to kind of pay attention, guys, when you're going to races, because some of these races are being put on by people that's done it for the first time, or doing it, but the first time, and they don't really understand. Like, there's promoters out there that have never raced this way. They've never street raced. They've never no prep raced. So they don't really know the ins and outs of what they're doing. And if somebody says, "Can we pour water?" Oh, hell yeah! What they don't know is they're setting themselves up for a major problem. And if they tell you, "Well, you can do your burnout back there in the water," like they've been doing at KD, that's bad. That's bad. Because you know why? Because everybody's standing up here, and then the car's back there doing a burnout coming into the crowd. The reason they put this box here is because they want the burnout to be done there and gone that way, and the crowd behind the cars.
Right.
Okay. So always make sure you've got prep handy, unless it's specifically stated it's water burnout only. Now, does anybody have any questions about water burnout only races?
Yeah, like you've been racing since the 80s and all that, back when it was just water, right? There was none of this back then, right? How does it compare? This is just 100 times better?
No, I wouldn't say that. In all honesty, the fastest places we've ever raced have been water burnout.
Oh wow. Okay.
The difference is this will get, let's say, from 0 to 100%. 100% is the radial traction. Radial prep, 100%. 0 is in that right lane right now. Okay? Pouring puddles will get you from 0 to 50% right now. But it'll never get to 100. Unless it's nighttime and everybody's using really good compound. Okay? Water burnout will get you from 0 to 50 in 3 rounds. 4 rounds maybe. Might take 4 rounds for it to come in. But when it comes in, it's really, really good. Okay? That makes sense to everybody? And the reason I say that is because this stuff's sticky and gooey, and you end up with a lot of rubber being put down on top, layer after layer after layer, and it gets soft and squishy. Whereas if you can keep the rubber really thin with a water burnout like it is like right now, it's just been scraped. A thin coat of rubber is tight and fast. Thick rubber is soft, squishy. It's like trying to run on a waterbed. Same thing. Okay?
Water seems more consistent.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? I know somebody's got something they want to ask.
I might need a list of them cardinal sins because I'm new to this and I'm just.
You got 2 of them. So
I just figured it out as I go, right?
don't stand in the tracks. Don't
Watch
pour
what your
water
dad
in the
does.
puddle.
Look at her.
Right, absolutely.
All right, guys. So who here needs a little bit of helpful suspension tuning with that?
Yes, sir.
I know you do. Body.
I'd like to just look at it and see what it does.
Yeah, same here.
What car have you got now?
Trans Am.
The Trans Am. Okay. I'll get Junior to come up here and help you guys take a look at some things if you're having trouble. We'll come up and let you guys make singles down this left lane. We'll video it, and then if you have questions when you come back, I'll be right here on the patio.
We're gonna video every pass. I brought the laptop so we can blow it up nice and big.
Nice.
Tommy, are we running the full 8 or just taking off
Whatever
so
you
far?
can feel comfortable
Okay.
with. If it gets
It
loose
was
out.
loose out there, so I didn't really know all the way. I'd definitely be careful.
Yeah.
All right, guys, go ahead and bring the cars up here, and we'll do them one at a time.
Yes, sir.
Everything counts. So the other thing is, guys, you know, some of you asked about long burnouts. If you're attempting to do a long burnout, you want to start at a little bit lower air pressure. A long burnout makes a half a pound to 3/4 of a pound difference in air pressure. A half a pound to 3/4 of a pound of air pressure means whether or not that car goes out the back or not, especially with no tubes. A CO7 Hoosier stiff sidewall is much better out the back than a Mickey ever thought about.
Is it better for a heavier car too?
No. There's a balancing effect here. Okay? So Hoosiers tend to wad up and they'll drive over themselves really easy. Whereas a Mickey will 60 foot like a mother, but they won't hardly run out the back on a bad surface. They get, for an example, on the draggy, Billy's S10 is 2 to 3 tenths faster in the 8th on a virgin road on a Hoosier than it is a Mickey. You follow me?
Yeah, quite a difference.
Now, the Hoosiers, you've got a CO7 and a DO6. The DO6 is a 2810, not a 105. It's a softer compound. It is much better on the street on a virgin surface on some cars. Problem is, it's not a stiff sidewall. So if you're running a lot of ballast, which you probably are on a street like that, they tend to wad up. When they tend to wad up, you have to run the air pressure up. When you run the air pressure up, sometimes they don't stay glued down the track. We have found that we like the CO7 the best. We have. Digger die is unlike anything you'll ever see experience anywhere. It's beyond the worst streak you can ever imagine. Mickey Thompson at Darlington or Rockingham. It's like racing. It's worse than racing in those stages. Is in between a Mickey. It depends on where we're going and what we're doing. If we're going to Katy Dragway and it's terribly coarse and a lot of bumps, you got to remember, this is a nice track. KD is not a nice track. KD is like taking your car on a roller coaster ride. Okay? Billy's been 550s at KD. 550s at KD is like 450s here. Except for 550s on a roller coaster where you're maxing the shock travel out, up and down. I mean, it's incredible what he can do with an S10 down there. We won't run a Phoenix down there because we need everything we can get at KD. Everybody can 60 foot in the 130s at KD. Just about everybody can 60 foot 130s at KD. The problem is once you get off of 60 foot, the rest of it is absolutely the worst thing you've ever driven on. So there's more track to make up ground on a Hoosier down there than there is in a 60 foot. A Hoosier is going to go 130 60 foot, 135, 130. And a heavy car, that's doing good on a Hoosier. Below 130 on a Hoosier, you're a sitting duck. You're a car behind at 60 foot on a Hoosier at this track after the 3rd or 4th round. Especially if you don't have a tube in it. You better be able to run 130 to 140, 150 out the back. If you're sitting next to, if the track's good, you're sitting next to a car on a Mickey, and the car's set up good, the Mickey's going to be a car and a half ahead of you at 60 foot. That's just the way it is. Now Phoenix is a lot better. Now this isn't every single time. There's a lot of variables. But I'm telling you, if I could copy Billy's S10 exact, and you put that same exact truck down both lanes side by side, the Mickey's going to be a car length ahead with the 60 foot on a Hoosier.